Hi guys, and today I would like to share with you my experience about reading book which is written by incredible Ms.Tina Knowles, and the name of this book is Matriarch. You know guys, to be honest, this is my first book in English, fully 400 pages. So this book was published at the springtime this year, and there was a tour launched across the US and some cities of the Europe. So I myself attended here in Chicago the presentation of this book at the Athenaeum Theater, and oh my god guys, that was such an amazing experience. So Miss Tina Knowles is 71 years old and she's looking absolutely gorgeous. Are you coming out right? Everything was looking perfect. And you know, my most favorite part about the book presentation that she has such a strong energy, you know, such a powerful energy at the age of 71. And I, in my head, would never ever had a thought that one day I will see the Beyonce's mom, Miss Tina Knowles, so close to me. So the presentation of this book lasted for 2 hours, but you know, for me it was like a 5 minutes. So because this was such a breathtaking experience, and you know, I also would never ever have a thought in my head that few days after I would attend the Beyonce's concert, Cowboy Carter tour here in Chicago. And about this event, I also have the video on my YouTube channel. So Matriarch book is a story about Miss Tina Knowles' life. And in spite of she was born and grew up in a very poor family, in spite of infidelity of her own husband, in spite of the health problems, in spite of many losses of the family members and family's close friends, she rised up three worldwide known big superstars: Beyonce Knowles, Kelly Rowland, and Solange Knowles. And you know, like, the most important thing for me about this book, that this book, first of all, about Black motherhood and the power of the being a mom. So I am not Black, but I'm also mom. I'm raising up a kid, and I must say that if you want a good life for your kid, you cannot be scared anymore of the things which your parents were scared about. You cannot be afraid anymore. So you have to be grown, you have to be strong, you have to make decisions by yourself, and you have to move forward even you don't have a perfect conditions. Also, the most important thing for me about this book is that while reading that story, right, you have a feeling that Miss Tina Knowles is sitting next to you and she is just telling the story about her life personally to you. But there are, you know, some parts of this book which was very hard and tough for me to read. For example, when she was describing her childhood, she was born and grew up when there was a very, very strong racism. And I was born and grew up and raised up not in the US. I have never been surrounded by the people who passed through the things. So for me, it was very, really hard to read this part of the books when she was describing that she was 5 years old kid and she could not go to shop and take an ice cream because she didn't have the white skin color. So I just, you know, couldn't read these things when she described the racism without tears. Really, it was really hard and tough for me to read these things. Another thing is that, you know, she describes some situations in her life where which I have been through too. And for example, when she was 5 years old, she was studying at the Halle Rosari, and the nanny told her that you don't belong here. And that is so scary when you're a kid and you hear that things, the teacher is telling you that you don't belong here. So you came to that place where you should get the knowledge, right? You should get the understanding of the life, and it's just prohibited for you because just the teacher told you that. Because when I was a kid, I was in the school, and it is really good school. So I was surrounded by the classmates, I was surrounded by the kids, and they are from the rich families, and I was born and grew up not in rich family, right? So I grew up in a very simple family. So we didn't have much money in my family. So the main teacher, she never told me that I don't belong here, but she had that attitude, you know, that I should not be here because I don't have enough money. My family doesn't have enough money. So, and these things give you such a strong feeling that you're not enough. And that is true. So at one side, it's really painful and hurtful, and you really should have a very strong character to pass through that. But at the same time, it's a fuel for you. That what drives you in life. That what helps you to build a successful life for your kids and for yourself too. And you know, like, I just love this book also because the whole book is a recipe about how to make the lemonade when you have lemons, from mom to daughter, generation to generation. This book is an incredible example of how women can change the entire world. We would never know the Beyonce as a superstar if she didn't have the mom like this. I love the energy of this book. I love that she shows, you know, many complicated situations, and where she found the exits of that situations. Even when she had the 2 kids in her hands, Beyonce and Solange, she decided to open the hair salon, and she wanted to be independent, right? Because she had the troubles in her marriage. And there is a line, and I love this line. It is written in this book. So this is what mothers do. You said you were going to do this, right? So do it. So she took a decision that she will be not afraid. She will not be scared of the things which her parents were afraid, right? So she wanted to be a singer when she was a kid, right? She wanted to perform, but because her parents were afraid, so it never happened. It had never happened to Miss Tina. So that's why I think it became aim of her life, the goal of her life, right? To make her kids' dreams come true. And she did it amazingly. She did her best. She did her great. The whole story is such, you know, so much breathtaking. And I would recommend to read it for everyone who would like to have a support, you know, in their life, especially for moms who are rising up their kids, and they don't have a support in their life, or they don't know what to do, right? So just to understand that you are, as a woman, you can change many things in the life. You can just do your best. Just don't be afraid of the things. Just take a step, just take a decisions, and everything will be fine. Just you have to pass through the hard time, but good time will always happen if you will be not afraid. This book gave me such a big inspiration about rising up a kid, because your kid cannot be good at everything, like learning languages, reading the book, study math, but you just have to understand where your kid can be good naturally and successful, and just guide him or her in that field. And at the end of the book, I found these lines, and I will read for you these lines, guys. If I don't find companionship, I am going to be okay. And that is a new revelation for me. I'm 70 and I just learned that I am enough. I wish I would have realized this at 40 or 50, maybe even younger, but that is why I'm telling you right now. So again, this is incredible, amazing book, and I'm waiting for the second book from the Ms. Tina Knowles. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have already read this book, please leave the comment, or you would like to discuss this book, also please leave the comment. And thank you so much for watching this video. Please don't forget subscribe my channel. Thank you so much. Let's pick it up.